All right, little glimpse of the state's open there. Let's bring in our guests now, see what they think. Domestic violence expert, former law enforcement officer Claudia King is with us, and trial attorney Jamie White with us as well. Good morning to you both. So she's in this relationship. She goes on this drive with him. We know that much. You know, she dies from 2 stab wounds, one in her chest, one in her neck. No blood at the scene. One of the sergeants notes that it looked like somebody cleaned up her body. Jamie White, your thoughts, and we haven't seen all of it, but what we saw thus far and what the state is putting forth in their open.
Yeah, so first, I think Claudia made some thoughtful comments, and I don't disagree with those. But I do think that the interesting thing about the opening here, Julia, is the lack of presentation that was made. You know, you've already referenced the fact that there doesn't appear to be any physical evidence, but also, you know, Claudia mentioned the previous domestic problems that these folks had had over the course of, it appears, 10 years. And as a general rule, your prior behavior is not evidence. It's not allowed to come in to prove that, for the truth of the matter, so to speak, that you did what you're accused of on this occasion. Now, there are certainly exceptions, and one of those exceptions in most states is a history of assaulting not only the person that's been ultimately murdered, but maybe even previous domestic assaults. And we didn't hear any of that. So, you know, I suspect there's been some pretrial determinations that a lot of this evidence is not coming in. And that is going to create a little bit of a gap when it comes to trying to tie all of this together as this ongoing relationship that ended up in her murder.
Yeah, good points, Jamie. Thank you for that. There's more to come. Stand by. I'd love to get you know, both of your thoughts after we play a little bit more in the trucker's girlfriend's murder trial. Let me bring in our guests now. Watching along with us, Claudia King and Jamie White, as we're assessing this witness's testimony. Jamie, let me start with you here, please. Dr. Mark Rubino, we saw him go through his qualifications and then go through some of the testing before the signal froze. Your impressions so far?
Well, my first impression is that the announcement that this will be the only defense witness. I've never seen a death penalty phase hearing where there wasn't some members of the community that he had relationships, you know, maybe even as a child, that it could attest to the reason he shouldn't be put to death. So that was something that stood out to me initially. As far as the doctor's examination, we haven't heard anything yet to suggest that this man rises to the level of the death penalty not being considered. You know, we've seen the Supreme Court reverse death penalty convictions over the course of the years where people were seriously incapacitated at the time they committed the acts. There doesn't appear to be any evidence to this point yet. I think, and the one thing, if I could just make one final point, Julie, you know, Florida, you know, I think most legal scholars agree is the most aggressive when it comes to the death penalty in the country, and that became even more so when Governor DeSantis signed a law recently, I believe, and most people would agree, in response to the Parkland shooter not being put to death, that there no longer requires a unanimous verdict. And that's what we have here. We have a non-unanimous verdict. So I think it will be interesting to see how the judge responds to that. And I don't know if it's a case of first impression. I can't say that I follow Florida law that strictly, but it's certainly unique in the sense that some people on that jury did not believe he should be put to death.
Yeah, Jamie, interesting point you raised. If the defense loses this battle today, you raise a great point. They're going to, no doubt, try to appeal the constitutionality of the law put in place after Parkland. As you noted, Governor Ron DeSantis signing into law something that lawmakers, it was a bipartisan effort. They moved really fast in Florida because of what happened with Nicholas Cruz, because he wound up getting a life recommendation. And I remember how stunned so many of those victims were. And it's still left that community reeling, as we know. So thank you for that. That could be something where the defense goes next, perhaps, if today fails. Thank you both for all of that. We have been told the signal is going to be restored as we go back into this hearing in our next hour. Have to say goodbye and a big thank you to you both for your time and analysis. Jamie White, Claudia King, always a pleasure having you. We'll see you both soon.